Ray Brown's Talking Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com. By Feathersnap, the smart bird feeder with a high-resolution camera and species identification software aimed to educate and spread joy to every level of avian enthusiast. Learn more at feathersnapcam.com.
And by Vortex Optics with the VIP warranty, their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to our show number 1008. Just beyond the windows of our Talking Birds studio is what we call the Talking Birds Garden, which we created quite some time ago and called it the world's smallest bird sanctuary. Unfortunately, it got a lot smaller in recent days due to some very large invasive plants that started to take over. Well, I'm happy to report that we assembled a 7-person crew there on Saturday, October 19th, and cleared out a truckload worth of stuff from there. We'll soon be installing a new series of bird feeders to help our local birds keep going strong through the winter. We'll put up some nest boxes for cavity nesting birds in the spring. Thanks to our gardening crew, including our own Debbie Bleacher, along with Peter and Christina and Max and Laura and Jocelyn. What a team. Photos will be posted soon. We have a different sort of audio postcard today, and it's from a legendarily famous bird-related place in Ithaca, New York.
Good morning, Ray and fellow birders. This is Linda Schwartz, usually reporting from Baltimore, but today I'm actually at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and I'm here with
David.
And David is our friend greeting us as we come into the lab, and I'm going to ask him a few questions just to tell us about the lab and about what he does here. So, how long have you been here?
I've been here for about 3 years.
And tell us some of the fun things you do.
Well, one of the best things I get to do is fill the feeders every morning for our Feeder Watch Bird Camp.
Okay.
And I also get to greet all of the excited visitors here and hear about what's out on the trails. I also manage the collection for the Adelson Library, which is a wonderful library here in the Lab of Ornithology Visitor Center.
Oh, great. In fact, I'm planning to visit that while I'm here today. Well, listen, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and have a great day.
That's our Linda there from Baltimore. They're in Ithaca, New York, with David. A different kind of audio postcard and a wonderful one. Thank you, Linda and David. We'll listen to another audio postcard next week. And if you'll send us one, we'll listen soon to yours. To make one, just record yourself describing a birding experience of any kind, looking or listening, on a smartphone or other digital device. And then send the file to Ray at talkingbirds.com. That's Ray at talkingbirds.com. I want to give a mention to, as we do from time to time, a couple of our favorite publications now available online. We're actually late getting to this, but they're there. One is called Bird Observer. This is New England-based, but wherever you are, there's lots of stuff that would be relevant to your location. Their website is birdobserver.org. And the Birding Community e-Bulletin, our friends Wayne Peterson and Paul Basich. This is an amazing free publication. Just do a search online or just Google Birding Community e-Bulletin. One of the things on there is their rare bird alert, and this time featuring the stellar sea eagle back in Newfoundland at Trinity Bay. Also brown jays in the Rio Grande Valley, slate-throated redstart in California, and lots of other ones. Birding Community e-Bulletin. It's free and really worth checking out. What we're hearing there is our mystery bird. This is a preview of the contest. We want to get you ready for it being a little later on in the show. And first of all, we have a very special new prize. It's just today only, as far as we know. Today only for this very special prize. It's a Feathersnap Wi-Fi-enabled smart bird feeder with technology that lets you capture photos and videos of your feathered visitors and delivers them right to your smartphone. It does all kinds of other stuff, too, but that's kind of part of it there. So that's a very special Mystery Bird Contest prize. The other prize is very special, too. It's a one-year subscription to the new birding magazine BWD, founded in 1978 as Birdwatcher's Digest. Now back and better than ever. It is a wonderful magazine. Big full-size magazine now, by the way. So, 2 big prizes on our Mystery Bird contest. Our Mystery Bird, which breeds over most of the eastern U.S. and winters in coastal Mexico and the Caribbean, is a small songbird with a brown back, white undersides with dark stripes, and a white eye stripe. It bobs its tail constantly as it forages along wooded streams and ponds. Our bird is a type of warbler, although the word warbler isn't part of its name. It kind of looks more like a thrush, or maybe even a sparrow. One more clue, our bird shares its first name with a southern state. That's our mystery bird thing, and we'll be doing the actual contest a little bit later on. We'll be urging you, as always, to call as soon as possible when we activate the contest later on. It's a royal salute to another royal listener. That's what we call our Talkin' Birds ambassadors. Those are the folks who join our ambassadors family and help us get the word out about birds and birding and conservation. So we want to say thank you to Lorraine Hetzler from Litchfield, Illinois. Thank you so much, Lorraine, and thank you for your kind comments. We're glad you enjoy the show. To become an ambassador is really easy. Just go to talkinbirds.com and click on the Get Involved button at the top of the page. That's talkinbirds.com and the Get Involved tab there at the top of the page. And here's another listener with some very thoughtful comments about being an ambassador.
My name is Elizabeth Malloy, and I am calling in from Charlestown, New Hampshire. So I became a Talkin' Birds ambassador because if I'm going to be part of a community, I felt like I should be involved and take action within that community. And part of this community is about conservation. And so if you consider it as a web of life, I am now partaking in conserving part of the web of life. I would encourage other people to become ambassadors. I would remind you that you are partaking in a community, and that is good for our mental health, as well as the fact that you will be participating in conservation. And so even though you can't do all of the conservation ever, you are partaking in a smidgen of it, and that will ripple effect out.
I love that ripple thing. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for dropping those little pebbles in the pond and watching them spread out. More than 900 Talkin' Birds ambassadors now doing that. Once again, go to talkinbirds.com, click on the Get Involved tab at the top of the page to join up. Still to come on our show today, Mike O'Connor will join us for Let's Ask Mike Live, and Mike will talk about the hunting techniques of hawks and other raptors, or maybe just hawks. Also, we'll talk with a man who's on a worldwide quest to honor the memory of the lost birds of Hawaii and to save existing ones whose survival is threatened. And up next, a bird from another Pacific Island group is today's featured feathered friend. There's a little nostalgia in today's featured feathered friend segment, because it was just about 7 years ago when your humble host, along with friends Marjorie and Alan and a whole bunch of other folks, spent a week in the Galapagos Islands, about 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador. In addition to broadcasting our show from there, we saw many fascinating creatures, including those famous tortoises, and birds like the various finch species made famous by Charles Darwin, flightless cormorant, Laysan albatross, Galapagos penguins, and many more, including today's featured feathered friend, the swallow-tailed gull. This beautiful gull is strikingly patterned with a dark gray head, pale gray on the upper neck and breast, white lower breast and belly, medium gray wings, pinkish legs and feet, a black bill with a light gray tip, and a deeply forked tail. In flight, this bird displays a striking three-toned wing pattern of gray, white, and black. The swallow-tailed gull breeds almost exclusively in the Galapagos Islands, with a few nesting on an island off the coast of Colombia. When not breeding, the swallow-tailed gull is totally pelagic, foraging over the open ocean and eastward to the Ecuadorian and Peruvian coasts. This bird is unique among gulls in that it feeds only at night, mostly on fish and squid that rise to the surface to consume plankton. Its loud and commonly heard alarm calls sound like this. The swallow-tailed gull is protected by Galapagos National Park, and although increasing human population and a burgeoning fishery are causes for concern, it's not considered globally threatened. A beautiful, nocturnal specialty of the Galapagos Islands, Cryagus furcatus, the swallow-tailed gull, today's Talkin' Birds featured feathered friend. Welcome again to our show number 1008. We know about big years when birders go on a quest to find and identify as many bird species as possible within a calendar year. And when they do this on a worldwide scale, it's called a global big year. Well, our guest on today's show is on a worldwide quest of a different sort, although it certainly does involve birds. He's Bret Nainoa Mossman, and he's an avian biologist, conservationist, and photographer from Hawaii, known for his efforts to protect native Hawaiian birds. And he's engaged in a social media project called Birds of Hawaii, Past and Present, aimed at raising awareness and funding for bird conservation. And he's here with us from Waimea, Big Island, to tell us about one part of that project. Good morning, Bret.
Morning, Ray. Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure, my pleasure indeed. So the title of your project gives us a hint of part of what you're doing with the inclusion of the word past, because you're visiting museums to photograph and catalog specimens of birds that in many cases have gone extinct. So tell us, if you would, what that part of your project entails.
Yeah, so I've been on a mission over the last year or so just to document and photograph all of the native Hawaiian birds kept in museum collections around the world. And it's kind of a way to bring them home in a sense. So here in Hawaii, many of our native species are actually not in our museums. So in some cases, you have to travel 5,000 plus miles to see one of these birds. And so one of the big things that I want to do is reconnect our people here in Hawaii to our birds that are no longer with us, so that we can, one, increase our scientific knowledge of the species, and two, just increase the accessibility for people who are interested in artwork and other projects that can help elevate our birds back into our everyday lives, even though they are no longer living with us.
Mm-hmm. Well, we hear more and more stories about museums returning artifacts and works of art to the countries that they came from and that were taken away, often in questionable circumstances, and are now being returned, in many cases, to their original homes. And it sounds as though maybe part of what you're doing is doing something like that for birds. Is that nearly correct?
Yeah, exactly. And the big thing for me is I really want to be able to find all these specimens and to document them and to preserve them in this visual sense. So I haven't really been pushing to bring them back physically, where I think bringing them back in a digital sense is a way that we can kind of meet all of the requirements and restrictions that certain museums have, But I think ultimately one day I would love to be able to have at least a representative of each Hawaiian bird species back here in Hawaii. But for now, I'm just focusing on digitally preserving these specimens and trying to work with museums to help them digitize their collections, as well as bringing them back to Hawaii for access for people here.
Well, Hawaii has been called the bird extinction capital of the world, and many of the birds you're photographing represent extinct species. In a National Audubon magazine interview that you did, you referred to these birds as our grandparents. Say more about that, if you would.
Yeah, so in the Hawaiian worldview, native species like these birds they came to these islands before us, and they literally terraformed this place to make it the quote unquote paradise that it is viewed at today. And so these birds played a key role in the ecosystem in preserving forming our way of life here. And so in that way, we see them as this group of organisms that came before us and nurtured us and took care of us. And so it's then our responsibility now, as they are ailing, to kind of take that same mantle and take care of and remember them. And so in that way, there's this very close familial relationship with birds and our native ecosystems here and the indigenous people of Hawaii.
So many of the birds that you're photographing and cataloging are gone forever, but there are others that represent living species, and certainly many of those threatened with extinction. How do these birds figure into your project?
Yeah, so I'm still working on cataloging the specimens that are living, the specimens of living species, because even though they are still with us in life, it's still, to me, each one of these birds is an individual, and they deserve to have that represented in this project. So even if it's there's been a couple species like the eevi where there's more than 500 specimens in one institution, I'm still trying to give every single one of those birds their individual recognition through this project.
Well, you photographed, I believe, some 3,000 bird species so far, and I think 14,000 photographs. And from what I read, I understand you're about a third of the way through the project. What will be the next step when you've completed that work?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been thinking of. The ultimate goal is to have all of the images available online for public access at any time by anybody. Now, setting that up has had kind of some mixed ideas. So right now I've been mostly just working on processing the images, because 14,000 images takes a little while to get through. But I'm hoping to eventually get them up on either my personal website, the Bishop Museum website, or some other place, possibly the State of Hawaii website, where they can be available in perpetuity, to make sure it's this. We're trying to create this digital museum that you can access every individual Hawaiian bird.
A wonderful project, and there's lots of other work you do. We have a little bit of extra time here. Tell us about your work in Hawaii with Fish and Wildlife. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I work for the Department of Land and Natural Resources and the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. And within that organization, I work with the Natural Area Reserve System on Hawaii Island. And we primarily focus on work surrounding our endangered native forest birds and our vulnerable native seabirds. And so our work primarily focuses on predator control and monitoring avian disease, because those are really the two biggest factors that have been driving the extinction crisis here in Hawaii. These non-native introduced predators, and then the big one, avian malaria and avian pox, which is only spread by mosquitoes. So those are kind of the major projects that I work on. But I also do some work across the state with other avian projects.
Well, you mentioned that about mosquitoes, so I just have to ask you about that. I mean, as I understand it, what's happened with many of the birds is they are going higher and higher and higher in an attempt to escape the mosquitoes, but there's a limit to how high they can go. Mosquitoes are following them, and as you say, avian malaria is a big problem. How much progress on that?
Yeah, exactly. So it's particularly evident on the island of Kauai, where the highest elevations top out at about 5,000 feet. And unfortunately, in the last 5 years, mosquitoes have invaded that last refugia where Kauai birds are found. And so some species, such as the akikiki, are down to, we think there's about 4 individuals left in the wild, so they've really plummeted over the last few years. But fortunately, we are finally getting some mosquito control technology on the ground. So one of the methods is BTI, which is basically, it's the same bacteria that's used in the mosquito dunks that people will put in their bird baths and things like that. But it's being spread across the forest to combat mosquitoes in their breeding pools. And then the other really exciting one that's in the works, it's been being released on Maui since June, is what's called IIT, or the incompatible insect technique. And basically what that is it's kind of like a birth control for mosquitoes, where they're releasing a bunch of these male mosquitoes that have a different strain of bacteria called Wolbachia that lives inside their cells than wild females. And when they mate, they're not able to produce any viable eggs. And it's been really successful for human health around the world, particularly in Australia and Singapore. So we're really hoping it can help bring back our birds on Maui and Kauai.
Bret Nainoa Mossman is an avian biologist, conservationist, and photographer from Hawaii, known for his efforts to protect native Hawaiian birds. And his social media project, Birds of Hawaii, Past and Present, aimed to raise awareness and funding for bird conservation. Well, Bret, lots of people are following your work, I know, and we'd like to add some more folks to that list. What's the best way for people to keep up with your project and your other work?
Yeah, I think the best one is probably my Instagram page, which is just at birds_Hawaii, past present. And then you can also find me on Facebook with the same name, and TikTok at BHPP. And then you can always reach out to me too via email, birds_Hawaii_past_present@gmail.com. I'm always happy to answer whatever questions I can.
All right. Bret, thank you so much for being with us, and thanks for your wonderful work.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, and aloha.
Aloha to you. Bret Mossman here on Talking Birds, and up next, it's our Mystery Bird contest in just 1 minute.
The flutter of a tail feather, the flash of a wing bar in mid-flight. You don't always have a lot of time to identify a bird in nature, let alone to appreciate its beauty. But with Vortex Optics, you'll have the power to bring every wild moment closer. When you choose Vortex, you're choosing to have a partner in the field as passionate about nature as you are. Whether you're spotting old friends on the backyard feeder or packing for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to add a few species to your life list, Vortex offers a full range of optics and optics accessories for every birder and every budget. And whether the birds are taking you to another state or another country, you're always covered by the Vortex VIP warranty, an unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. If you'd like to learn more, or if you need help choosing your next optic, give Vortex a call at 1-800-4VORTEX or visit vortexoptics.com.
The sound of our mystery bird. Hear those clues again. Our bird breeds over most of the eastern U.S., winters in coastal Mexico and the Caribbean. It's a small songbird with a brown back, white undersides with dark stripes, and a white eye stripe. It bobs its tail constantly as it forages along wooded streams. Our bird is a type of warbler, although the word warbler isn't part of its name, and it kind of looks more like a thrush or maybe a sparrow. One more clue, our bird shares its first name with a southern state. That's our mystery bird. And prizes, well, we have a very special prize this morning. It's a feather snap, Wi-Fi-enabled smart bird feeder with technology that lets you capture photos and videos of your feathered visitors and delivers them right to your smartphone. It does all kinds of other stuff, too, including helping you compile your own bird book. This is an amazing thing, and we're excited to have this as a special prize this morning. Our other prize is pretty special, too. It's a 1-year subscription to the new birding magazine, BWD. Founded back in 1978 as Birdwatchers Digest, it is now back and better than ever. It has in-depth articles by renowned experts on an array of topics, from backyard birds to birding around the world and pretty much everything in between. So, beautiful prizes on our Mystery Bird contest, and all you have to do is call in and tell us what the bird is. That sounds pretty simple. Getting the right answer would help, but even if you don't get the right answer, if no one else does, we'll do a drawing and create a winner that way. We're kind of determined to have a winner, if we can, on every show. Here is the number, and I'll repeat it once I give it, 781-837-4900. Once again, that's 781-837-4900. Call us as soon as possible. Next, it's Let's Ask Mike live in just 1 minute.
Ready to take your backyard bird watching to the next level? FeatherSnap makes Wi-Fi-enabled smart bird feeders that blend the best of technology and nature. Get a high-def glimpse of your feathered friends with a top-of-the-line camera so every visitor can be seen with clarity and detail. A unique dual feeder bin helps attract more species, and built-in solar panels keep your camera's battery going strong. FeatherSnap's mobile app creates a truly immersive experience, allowing you to collect and organize your favorite pics and videos and earn badges along the way. FeatherSnap is a convenient and fun way to capture powerful images of your local birds and help get your friends and family excited about bird watching. Best of all, FeatherSnap offers expert-trained AI identification of more than 275 North American species, thanks to their in-house ornithologist. Check them out today at feathersnapcam.com. feathersnapcam.com.
Down to the famous Birdwatchers General Store, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, the home of Mike O'Connor and a lot of hunting hawks, apparently, as we're going to find out on today's episode here. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning, Ray. I just saw some photos of your little landscaping that, recreate the Talking Birds garden. And there was one picture, this guy in a stunning shirt. I don't know where he got it, but it was a really good-looking shirt.
Yeah, I looked at that. I couldn't tell at first. I looked more closely, and it says Birdwatchers General Store.
Oh, see, I knew I recognized it. It looked good.
Yeah.
It's a good-looking guy, too, by the way.
That was our project, cleaning up the Talking Birds garden. We're going to have lots of photos on our website and Facebook page and maybe Instagram, too. So thanks for mentioning that.
Sure.
By the way, yesterday, one of our folks that was doing a part of our crew saw what she thought was a Cooper's hawk zip through the area where we were. It might have been a sharpshin. She wasn't sure, but it was apparently doing some hunting, and that's your topic here with the next 6.
Right. I get calls once in a while, and or emails. I get an email from Scott out in California, and he has red-shouldered hawks out there, which is kind of strange because I thought that was an East Coast bird, but there's a little strip of a little population out there along the California coast and the West Coast, and red-shouldered hawks are notoriously noisy. And Scott wanted to know where they're being noisy to startle prey into moving. They make their call. Because you know that red-shouldered hawks, maybe you can hear this, they're constantly chatting. And he wanted to know, are they chatting to scare the prey so they can flush it and make it fly or scurry or whatever the case may be? And turns out, no, that's not the case. They talk, they communicate with each other. Sometimes the young birds are noisy. Sometimes the birds are upset about something, or it's a territory or a mating thing. But it's not hunting. When hawks hunt, they shut up. They get quiet, especially red-shouldered hawks or red-tailed hawks or those kind of beauties. They sit in a tree branch, and they wait for something to come by, and they're quiet about it.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? And I got about 45 minutes more of this talk.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of being quiet, but Mike, I got to apologize. We're just really late on time here, so bad clock management.
I'll finish it after I hang up.
You got the point across anyway. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
All right, we got to rush back to the mystery bird contest. I'm not sure who's on the line, but I'm pretty sure somebody is, but we'll find out in a moment, trying to identify this mystery bird, a small songbird with a brown back. I forgot we have our new computer. I'm looking in the wrong direction to see who's on the line. And we have Jack is on there. Good morning, Jack. Is it Jack? We have Jack? Or is
Hello?
it Peg? Jack.
Hey, Ray.
Good morning. We're short on time, Jack, but tell us what that bird is.
I think it's a Louisiana water thrush.
You are absolutely right, and I'm glad you got it so quickly because we are so out of time. Jack, stay on the line. Right. We'll get your info. That is it for our show today. Thank you so much for being with us. See you next week.
The bird show. I like that. I love it.
Ray Brown's Talking Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com. By FeatherSnap, the smart bird feeder with a high-resolution camera and species identification software aimed to educate and spread joy to every level of avian enthusiast. Learn more at feathersnapcam.com.
And by Vortex Optics with the VIP warranty, their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.